A few weeks ago, I made over $2,000 in 1 week with Doordash. And that was after 112 hours of work. I showed you guys in that video that I spent $350 on gas and that the profit I made was $1,949. Well, I wish that was true. You see, the scary truth about Doordash is there are way more expenses you have to worry about than just gas, unfortunately. So in this video, I'll be breaking down all the expenses associated with Doordash and show you how much profit I really made working over 100 hours in a week. Now, obviously the first expense is gas, and I just went over that, so we don't need to talk about that. The next and most common expense I would say is probably oil changes. Now, it's recommended that you change your oil every 3,000 miles, but I've also heard that you can wait about 5,000 to 7,000 miles if you choose, and so I like to do it at about 5,000 miles every single time. So it usually costs me about $60 per oil change I get, and since I drove 2,062 miles during this week, we'll say that's roughly half of the miles I drive before I get an oil change, which means I spent about $30 worth of clean oil on this 1 week of dashing. Now, the one expense that's really going to bite you if you don't pay attention to it at the end of the year is taxes. Now, I have numbers on my laptop right here, so if I ever look over, just know it's because I'm checking the numbers out to make sure I get them correct. But because I drove 2,062 miles, I get a $1,288.75 tax deduction. Basically, how you figure this out is you take the standard mileage deduction, which for the last half of 2022 is actually 62.5 cents per mile you drive. So you multiply the 62.5 cents by the amount of miles you drove, and that's how you get the amount of tax deduction you get. So what I did is I just took 0.625, multiply that by 2,062 for the miles I drove in the week, and that's how I came to the number of $1,288.75. Now, after you get the tax deduction, you have to subtract that from the total you earned. So in total, I made $2,299. So subtract $1,288 from that, and that's the amount that I have to pay taxes on, which is $1,010. Now, since tax brackets are different for every single state, I just went with a nice rule of thumb of 25% for the purposes of this video so that it can apply to a more broad audience. But it definitely varies state by state because there's different state income tax and all that good stuff. But for the purposes of this video, we're just going to go with 25%. So take 25% of the $1,010, that's my actual taxable income, and I'm paying roughly $250 in taxes from this week. So if none of what I just said made any sense, I actually do have a couple of other videos I've made going a lot more in depth on this, but they're a little bit outdated. You can check them out if you want, or if you don't really want to do the math yourself, I do have a spreadsheet that you can subscribe to. It's $4.99 a month. I just barely updated it for the new gas prices and for the new standard mileage deduction, so it's completely up to date. If you want to check that out, I'll leave the link for you down in the description, or just hop over to my channel page and click the join button, and it's just $4.99 a month, and you just input how much you made in the amount of time you worked and how many miles you drove, and it does all the math for you. So if you're interested in that, that's down below or on my channel page. Just click join. But as you guys can see, we're only 3 expenses in, and I've already spent $630, which might be discouraging. And honestly, sometimes these expenses can make you run into some big problems. And I've had this happen before where I literally don't have enough money to put gas in my car, and I'm just like, well, I guess I'll do like $5 and then work off of that and then put in like another $10 and just kind of work my way back up. I mean, that was a couple years ago, but it does happen. If that's ever happened to you or anything like that where you find yourself in a bind, I have some good news for you. There's this company called Ivy, which is actually the sponsor of this video, and what they do is work directly with gig workers to get you $100 worth of cash advances regardless of your credit score. The main thing they focus on is the amount of income you're bringing in from different gig apps. So what you do is you can go on their website and you just link the different gig apps that you work for, say Doordash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, and the more you link, the higher likelihood you have of getting that $100 cash advance. So once you link your accounts, they see, oh, he's making this much. They're not like normal banks where you have to have your tax forms or you have to show proof of income, which can be really hard as an independent contractor. Nope, you just link your accounts and the rest is taken care of. You can have the cash advance on your phone within a day. So if you're interested in that, you can use the link I have for you down below in the description. It gets you fee-free cash advances for life. That means you never have to pay any fees on the cash advances you get, like other places you might get cash advances from, where you have to pay those pesky fees. No, just use the link down below and you'll get cash-free advances for life. So if that interests you, check it out. It can really come in handy with all these expenses you can rack up. So the next expense that you have to worry about is tires. Now, tires should last around 50,000 miles is probably when you're going to have to get new ones. And I actually just had to put new ones on my car and it cost $650. So 2,000 out of the 50,000 miles I get on a new tire, and I basically spent the equivalent of $27 on tires for this week. Next up, we have brake pads. It says that brake pads usually last around 30,000 miles, and I actually have to get new brake pads on my car pretty soon here as well, and it's probably going to cost me around $400. Now, I do drive an expensive car. I drive a Mercedes, so this might be more than your average car, but it's still an expense you have to worry about. And so the 2,000 miles I drove out of the 30,000 miles that brake pads should last, and I spent in theory about $35 on brake pads for this entire week. Now, the last expense that I think is one that kind of goes unnoticed is miscellaneous car expenses and a new car savings. So you never really know when something could just randomly go out on your car, or maybe you're trying to get an order done quickly and you run into a curb. I mean, that's never happened to me before. I would never hit a curb and pop a tire or pop multiple tires. That would just never happen to me, but it could happen to some people out there. And so there's just random things that can pop up as you're driving around. And so this is a fund that I recommend to have, where you just put away 5% of everything you make into this fund, and it goes solely towards any miscellaneous car expenses that you have that aren't the tires, brake pads, and oil changes or anything like that. This is for all the other stuff. And then also in this same account, you need to be saving up for a new car, because if you're driving as much as I do, then you're probably going to need a new car every 3 to 5 years, honestly. And so I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've already gone through one car, and now I drive my Mercedes. So just something to think about. 5% I think is a good rule of thumb, and so 5% of what I made from this week is $115. So that means in total, for this 1 week of dashing, I spent $807 in expenses, which means my real profit was only $1,492, making my hourly average $13.22. That's how much I was profiting every hour. Out of a 112-hour work week, I made just under $1,500. Yeah, that's not too good. I was not happy about that when I did the calculations for all these numbers. But that's just the scary truth of being a Doordash driver. So anyways, there you guys have it. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you subscribe, and also check out the link in the description for Ivy if you're interested in that. And also if you want that profit calculator sheet, that's also in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.